Hey guys, blue lip, blue shirt, Rago merch. Go get it. Link below. Anyways, I have been one to never be satisfied with my enclosures. Hello, I'm still here. Thank you. I have a problem with never being satisfied with my enclosures, and it's expensive. It's an expensive problem to have. But I recently redid my Crested Gecko enclosures, which, as you saw, I recently redid just a few months ago. So they are completely different looking now, and I'm really happy to share them with you. I will include a link to the previous version, which is still public, by the way, because there was nothing wrong with those enclosures. I didn't like them. I knew I could do better. Once I actually worked with expanding foam, I was like, oh crap. Now I'm gonna want all my enclosures to look like that. So I redid my cave gecko enclosure, all my crested gecko enclosures. So, oh, I also redid both my frog enclosures. So I'm happy to report that the crested gecko enclosures are the last ones to have been redone again, and they look really, really cool. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the tour. Okay everyone, first and foremost I want to apologize for the shakiness. I can't get a good view with a tripod in this corner of the room, so it's just going to have to be handheld. Before I dive into each one of these enclosures, which this one is Ree's, this one is Roshi's, and that one is Rue's, I want to address that you may catch a glimpse of this enclosure over here, but there's not a crested gecko living in it. I will talk about that more in a separate video. One more thing I want to address is that these are 20-gallon longs standing upright, and they have I Heart Gecko's acrylic doors siliconed onto the front. I will include a link below for these doors, but if you have a larger or smaller aquarium, I Heart Geckos may actually have doors that will fit your aquarium as well. Like, they don't just make them for 20 long standing vertical, they make them for other types of aquariums as well. One thing about all my enclosures, aside from the fact that they're all 20-gallon long standing upright and they have I Heart Gecko doors, is that they all have the same substrate mix. They all have Josh's Frog's ABG substrate. These are bioactive enclosures, meaning they have a cleanup crew, they have live plants, yada yada. So the ABG mix is from Josh's Frogs. I also got springtails and dwarf white tropical isopods from Josh's Frogs. I also have a drainage layer in here that's hydrogen. It's not easy to see because of the darkness, but it's there. And if you want to buy any of the materials I mentioned in this video, most of them are from Josh's Frogs or can be purchased from Josh's Frogs. And if you are interested in getting a 15% discount on your order, I will leave a link down below to Josh's Frogs with my discount code, which is Jessica15 in all capital letters. Ouch, I hit my leg. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with Ree's enclosure. So the I Heart Gecko doors open like this. There's 3 latches, and then ta-da, it just opens. They are permanently on here. I mean, you can tear it off if you want to, but it would just be messy and not easy. These are siliconed in place, like they're not going anywhere. So we have the drainage layer, then a fine layer of mesh, and then we have the ABG mix, then the organic topsoil, and then leaf litter. And like I said, that goes for all 3 of the enclosures. So now that we're done addressing the substrate, let's go ahead and talk about the background, which I'm sure is probably the most complicated part. The background is 2 main parts. So there is actually, back here, if you can see, it's a cork wall. So there's actual like flat cork, what is it called? Cork tile, that's what it's called. So in my previous enclosures, I had taken cork tiles and I had silicone them onto the background, and once they're on, you're not taking them off. So I just kept them in here and then built onto the existing design. But when we get to Roshi's, you'll see that that's different, and I'll explain why. So you don't need to have cork tiles in your background if you just want to use the expanding foam, which is this more textured part. Everything else aside from the flat cork tile background is going to be expanding foam and then pieces of cork. So like here's a piece of cork, and then expanding foam was sprayed around it, and then it was carved. And by carved I mean I took like a razor blade and carved all of like the weird bubbly edges to make it just look more natural, like it's built into the different pieces of cork, like this kind of like melds together, for example. Then once you have everything carved out, you take a paintbrush that you're never going to use again, and you get some silicone. I prefer black silicone, but you can use either. And then you just smear the entirety of your background part by part, and then you cover it with Eco Earth, organic topsoil, or sphagnum moss, or whatever you want to use for your background. So I used a combination of Eco Earth and sphagnum moss. So that is how I built my background, and it goes all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. It is very specifically designed for Rhi, because Rhi is very, very sensitive. Rhi is very secretive. She's not as active as Roshi. Roshi's design is different than hers, and we'll get into that in a minute. But each of these enclosures were made specifically with the crested gecko that was going to be living in them in mind. So because Rhi is super into hiding, she has a hide up here. I don't know if it's going to be easy to see because we're going to look into the light. But it has an entry and an exit hole on both ends. It's a cork round cut in half, and then I siliconed it to the top. So she has a hiding spot up there, and then she has another cork round here. She has another cork round down here, which is actually where she is right now. You can see the very tip of her tail right there. And then she has her coconut house down there. So she has a total of 4 hides in this enclosure. And then aside from the cork rounds and the driftwood, there's also pieces of cork put into the background, just because it looks nicer than just using pure expanding foam. So let's talk about the wood. The wood is all manzanita driftwood, which I got from Josh's Frogs, but I also like getting manzanita sometimes from Manzanita Direct. It just depends on what you're looking for. If you want smaller pieces for like a 20-gallon tall, which is kind of narrow, you know, it's only 12 inches, I would definitely go with Josh's Frogs. But if you want like a one singular big piece that's going to be like a centerpiece for an enclosure, like an aquarium or a polydarium, or like a really big vivarium, then Manzanita Direct is probably a better way to go. But keep in mind, it's expensive. Manzanita is not cheap when you get bigger pieces. Like these are only $11, but they're not really big pieces, and they're not super intricate. They're kind of just like singular, like there's not a lot of branches or anything. This is the only one I have that has another branch. So just keep in mind that it gets costly if you go the Manzanita Direct route or the bigger piece route. So there's one piece down here, and then there's another piece here, and then there's another piece back there. And then aside from the cork, the wood, and the background and the substrate, we have plants. And the plants are planted into the background with planting pots, which are basically large plastic cups that I popped the bottom out of so they'd have drainage, and then I adhered them to the background with silicone, and then I used expanding foam to spray around them to make them look part of the background. So here's one planter right here, and then here's another planter. Now with a creeping fig you don't need a planter, but I put this one too high, so I didn't have anything else to put here that I really wanted to be able to fit properly. Like I tried a philodendron that was in Rhi's previous enclosure, and the way that it fit the space I absolutely hated, so I had to get a whole new plant. Same with this. The previous pothos I had grown in a certain way that just didn't fit right in this spot, so I got a different one. So this is a marble queen pothos, this is a creeping fig. Here is a snake plant, which just fits so nicely back there. Like it's just nice and skinny and just whoop, right there, perfect. And then this is a, oh my gosh, I just hit it, I didn't mean to do that. This is a nerve plant. They all come from Josh's Frogs, and I will include links to them down below, as well as all the other plants that you'll see in this video. Then here is her feeding ledge, which is important to have in any crested gecko enclosure. This is the side of a heater. This is like kind of a longer under tank heater. It's not adhesive. It's meant for horticulture, so for like plants. Actually, I think it says horticulture right on it. Yeah, but it's just because during the colder months my room gets kind of cold for them, so I just have a little bit of heat. It's set to a thermostat, which is something you should definitely do every time you use a heater. But the cool thing is it heats Roshi's enclosure and it heats Rhi's, because they don't need like an extreme amount of heat, you know, so they just need a little bit, so it heats both of theirs, so I don't have to have more than 2, because I have one here, these 2 enclosures as well. So they have a cool side if they still want to get away from the heat. And that is the entirety of Rhi's enclosure. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this up. Just works with latches like that. Boop, boop, boop. And wait, where is it? I can't see. And done. It's latched. Now we're gonna move on to Roshi's, which is different than Rhi's for a good reason. So Roshi is bigger than Rhi, and he's a lot more active than Rhi. Like he really flies around this place. So his enclosure has a different type of background because he didn't previously have a background siliconed into his. So there was no cork tile background. It was completely flat. So I took pieces of cork and I fixed them to the background along with some planters and some wood, which I had collected from the beach like 4 years ago and never used. Don't worry, it's been cleaned and sanitized and yada yada, but like I was like, I finally want to use it in a design, so I did. I actually had this 20-gallon long, just like sitting to the side. And then I had all these pieces of cork just sitting to the side. And one day I was like, I want to build an enclosure, so that's what I did. It was my first time using expanding foam, aside from my Philodendron. So it was my first time ever using it in a non-aquatic setup. And then I just like built it, and I was like, holy cow, I like how this turned out so much better. And that's what inspired me to redo my other Crested Gecko enclosures. And you know, it still looks quite different because the background is not a cork tile, but it's better. I can sleep better at night knowing it doesn't look worlds better than my other ones. So just like Reese, it has the ABG mix, it's bioactive, it has leaf litter, blah blah blah. It has the expanding foam covered in Eco Earth, which is pretty much just like to hold all these pieces together. Like these two are planting ledges, sure, but most of it is cork. Here's cork again, there's cork down here, but it's kind of hard to see. And then up here is this coconut house that I originally didn't have a hide up here, and then I was like, this is so empty up top and I need to put something up there. So then I took a coconut round and I siliconed it to the top, and then I just took a bunch of silicone and Eco Earth and expanding foam and made that. So it just looks like this little weird nest. It's like my least favorite part of the enclosure, but it is what it is. It's in there now for sure. This philodendron is actually planted into a cork. So this piece of cork is like bent, so it allows for like a plant with a lot of substrate, because you can see it's still bent all the way down here. So that was pretty cool. That's something I really liked about his in comparison to all the others, including like he has the planter pots, right? Just like the other one. I really like how this looks like it's part of the background. It's gonna get real dark in here because now it's storming. Okay, here's proof for how dark it's gotten. Look at my pet room. This room is usually so lit. Like, it's usually so bright. It doesn't even look that dark outside, but like, damn, look at it. So, my bedroom is hella dark. So again, this planting pot is just like Ree's. It's a cup that has the bottom pushed out for drainage, and then it was siliconed into the background, and expanding foam and silicone, and then Eco Earth, yada yada, same thing for all of them. This little Joy Pothos was doing much better at first. It just had a hard time when it came to planting. It's the most recent plant in here. All the others have had like months to adjust, except for these two, which are new as well. But yeah, this guy just had a hard time, but he's coming back. As you can see, he's got a new crinkled leaf right here. This plant was my favorite plant in my whole entire life. Like, I've never been happier with a plant. This one shipped to me this way. Like, usually my pothos ship like this. They ship really tall, like they're still growing upwards. But this one came to me growing down. And this was the whole inspiration for my enclosure. Like, as soon as I got this plant, I was like, I'm building... A fly just attacked me. As soon as I got this plant, I knew that I was going to put it in an upright enclosure for a Crested Gecko, because I've always wanted to have like a draping pothos, but I've never gotten one. Every time I order pothos, they're all standing upright, like including hers. Hers grows upright as well, which is fine. It still looks good, but like this is my favorite part. And look how pretty it is. Like, there's so much variegation on this pothos. This is a Marble Queen pothos, and it has a lot of new leaves. Like, these are all new ones since I put it in. This one down here, and then these three. This is just a Philodendron cordatum, just a standard one, no variegation or anything. And then, like I said, that's a Joy Pothos. We have another nerve plant down here. And then I also realized I had this extra cork that was like already fitted with silicone and Eco Earth and sphagnum moss. As you can see, it was part of one of the other enclosures. So I was like, I'll just put it down here, and he actually loves it. He hides in it all the time, so it's perfect. So he has this hide, he has a coconut hide, and then he has this hide up here. And then he also has the wood from the beach that I mentioned already. He has two pieces built into the background, and then he has this long piece here which leads up to his feeding ledge, and then he has all the plants like I mentioned. So that is Roshi's, and his door sticks a little bit. I don't know why, but it does. It's a little bit harder to get on, but still much better than the screen ones I was using before. And then this one is Ruse. So Ruse is quite similar to Ree's. Just like the other Crested Gecko enclosures, Ruse has the ABG mix and all that jazz, and it also has manzanita wood, and it has cork rounds and yada yada in the background. We're gonna start at the top for this one. So she has a cork round that has an inlet and an outlet over here. So just like a big open space over here for her to get in and out. It's kind of hard to see because, here, let's see if I can do this. Here you go. There's the exit and there's the entrance. There we go. So that is a hide at the very top. and it opens up to another planter, which has a creeping fig in it. This is her food, which she did eat a little bit of, even though she just got moved in here recently. Very proud of her. She never skips a meal. And then here is some Marble Queen Pothos. This one is really gonna be tall. Like, I can tell it's just pulling right towards the light. Again, it'd be nice if I had a draping one like Roshi's, but like, I'll take what I can get, you know? And then this is a cork round. She likes to like be on her background, so I figured I would build something that would offer her coverage while she was scaling up her background. So this cork rounds open up here and at the bottom, and a lot of times she'll just like hide right in here. And then she has a cork round down here as well, which is really big, and it opens up like back here and allows her to crawl back down to the bottom. Like, from our eyes, or from my eyes and your viewing eyes, it looks like this is closed off, but it's not. It's open. It allows her to get down. Did you hear that thunder? Oh my god. Oh my god. And she has manzanita here, she has manzanita here, and she has manzanita here. And then she has her snake plants down here. This one is connected, so like this long one right here is connected by a root to this one. I don't know why this one is dying, but that one is living. So she pooped on this one. But yeah, I'm just hoping I can maybe get this one to come back to life. I don't know what's wrong with it. So that is the entirety of Rue's enclosure. So I'm gonna go ahead, maybe I'll open all the doors and let you guys get a look with the doors off. So Ree's, top to bottom, Roshi's, and Rue's. And then this is not for you to know right now. You coming out? Okay. No. Come back inside. Inside your house. There you go. And that's Ree's tail. And that's all I'm gonna get to see of her. I want y'all to have some evidence of this wild ass storm. It's literally been happening all day, but right now is like the most intense it's been. And we're in a flash flood warning until 4 a.m., which is like, I don't know, forever from now. So listen to that. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. The rain is coming in. Look how wet my arm got just from like that 2 seconds or even less when the rain shifted towards the window. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of my Crested Gecko enclosures. Please check the links below for the Rego merch, and also their social media down below. There's a Patreon down below, which the Patreon people already saw this video early, and they also saw the enclosures early, so if that's something you're interested in, Patreon's a really great option. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!